Welcome to the program today. Mondo Gonzales here in studio, and the question is, how close are we to the tribulation? We are going to be here with Terry James, so stick around. Well, welcome back. We are here with Terry James in studio, and we're going to be talking about the coming tribulation period. And as we know, things are moving quite fast. And before we get to Terry, I want to remind everybody about a couple things that put on your calendar our upcoming October 9th through 12th conference in Norman, Oklahoma. In all the perfect world, we won't even be here. But if we are, we're going to still be keeping our eyes on the return of Jesus. And so our conference is going to be in Norman. You can go to prophecywatchers.com and check it out. We're going to have over 20 speakers that are going to be sharing us all the latest things that are happening in this world. Also want to remind you this coming fall that we are going to be taking a trip, myself along with Billy Crone and a couple others, to Turkey. We're going to be doing a 7 Churches of Revelation tour, as well as going to Athens and seeing the Areopagus, the place in Acts 17 where Paul was, pretty phenomenal. Another thing that is interesting in this particular trip is we're going to be checking out the pyramids. So I'm looking forward to that from an archaeological background. So if you're interested in that trip, should be, again, a once-in-a-lifetime trip, you can go to prophecywatchers.com and just click on the events page, and you can just scroll down all the way to the bottom, and you can see the information there. So it's going to be a great time. Encourage you to join us. Terry, it is good to have you here.
Thank you, sir. Nice to be here.
So you have a new book out, Tracking Toward Tribulation and the Any Moment Intervention by Jesus Christ. I mean, here we are. Let me get your thoughts on something right out of the gate, because since Trump has come into the office, I've seen kind of maybe a little bit of a shift in Christians or even those that watch prophecy and be like, oh, you know, Terry, we sure saw things going straight towards the end, fast-paced during the Biden administration, COVID, et cetera, et cetera. But now that Trump's in, everything's taken a break, everything's on hold, it's all golden age in the conversation. Tracking toward the tribulation? What are you talking about? Things are wonderful. What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's exactly as I talked with Gary about early. It is exactly where Jesus said it's going to be at the time he next intervenes catastrophically into the world situation. As our subtitle indicates, Mondo, by that I mean that Jesus said in Luke, as recorded in Luke 17, 28 through 30, that as it was in the days of Lot, so shall it be in the day of the coming of the Son of Man. What did he mean by that? Well, he said they builded, they bought, they sold, they planted, they married, all these things. And the very day that Lot was taken out of Sodom, destruction came. Well, Lot was the only righteous that God saw in Sodom. I think it's becoming much this way, even though we have a president, but the president we have is a builder beyond any other we've known. He has got, I think business is going to boom, that's my personal opinion, from this point forward. And it's going to be just like it was the days of Lot. You know, Lot was in the city gate. He was an administrator. And it was the most booming area in the region. Sodom and Gomorrah were. And so I think that where we are right now is the fact that is that we're going to see a boom just like it was in the days of Sodom, and at some point where it looks like everything's going to be, we're going to make America great again. We're going to have the golden age, golden dome, and all these other things. At that very moment, Christ is going to intervene, just like he did, because it wasn't tribulation, it wasn't terrible times during that period. When Christ took a lot out of Sodom, it was business as usual. It was business going along as usual. It wasn't gloom and doom. And Jesus didn't say he's going to be, the tribulation era just before his second coming. Revelation 19:11 There's not going to be much humanity left on the planet. It's certainly not going to be business as usual at that time.
You bring up something here as well, but before we get into some of that, because tell me, give us a background. I'll say it this way: give us a background. Here's a book you have. You have several authors in the book. This is a collection of different people, which I really like those kind of books. Kind of talk about how this book came to be versus some of your previous books.
In this particular book, Tracking Toward Tribulation, and you'll remember this, I imagine, Mondo, I asked each author to send me things that they've already written and tailor it kind of for a book, things they see happening that would allow us to look at how things are moving toward the tribulation era. And things you've already written, rather than assign a topic, I wanted the authors to send me something that they're passionate about. And yours was on the conclusion. I used yours in the conclusion, and it was on the rapture, which is my very favorite topic. And so that was a little bit different. Instead of assigning topics, I asked each author to write what they're passionate about, and send it to me, even using things that they've written before and tailor it kind of to our book, because I gave them an idea of what the book was about. And it just worked out, I think, very well.
Yeah, it worked out very well, because the idea of tracking towards tribulation, we recognize from the Bible that there are a lot of factors and ideas and topics that are all converging. And, we all do this full time, and we love waiting for the Lord's return. We love tracking all of the different topics and convergences. And so to me as well, when you had mentioned about it, I was like, you know what? One of the factors, which was when I wrote in my article really about God's rescue, was what you just described a few minutes ago, that when I look out at the world and we see the chaos and we see the increase, and really Jesus, the rescue happens, whether it was Lot or Noah, in the days of Noah, days of Lot, we see that, like you said in Luke 17, that it happened at a time of relative normalcy. I wouldn't say absolute normalcy, but relative normalcy. People are buying, selling, planting, building. They're just, I have a venue, wedding. I'm going to plan a wedding. I'm going to get my building permit for the shed, But we don't see that at the end of the tribulation, do we?
No, and we don't see it now. With the surface just beneath all that building, buying, selling, business as usual, normalcy, we see the most wicked. We see a generation of people in this country and the world who are as wicked as the days of Lot. My goodness, with the ability to export pornography and all the other things. So great on the surface, civility, building boom, but beneath it, just ripping at God's heart, especially involving children, abortion, sex trafficking, and all the rest, has to rip at his heart. And so that's why I believe, Jesus is about to step out on the clouds of glory and say to his righteous people who are believers, that's the only righteous God sees, to come up here.
Yeah, to me, that really is the key. When you look out, there's this surface economic prosperity, but below, just like in the days of Noah, Noah was vexed. We see in Genesis 6:5 that humanity was wicked from their youth in their hearts continually. Certainly in the story of Lot, we see that the wicked sexual immorality and homosexuality that was happening there. We know as well in Ezekiel 16 that there was just a whole list of things that Sodom was doing in opposition to what God is.
So it vexed righteous Lot. Well, I don't know how righteous I am, but I am through Jesus, but I'm sorely vexed right now about these things happening.
Absolutely, and I imagine most of us, as we look around again with all the stuff that we're seeing come to be with, again, the sex trafficking, children's trafficking, all the things around the world, it's getting more and more exposed. And how much is behind the scenes, we don't know. Well, we're going to take a little break here for a moment where you can see how to get our monthly magazine, where, again, we also track along all the things that are happening in our world to keep us up to date. So take a listen.
The world is unraveling right in front of us. Wars, pandemics, economic collapse, artificial intelligence, global surveillance. Things are changing quickly, but you don't have to be caught off guard. At Prophecy Watchers, we believe that God has called us to be a voice in these last days, to warn you of things to come, to educate you on the study of Bible prophecy, and to boldly proclaim the soon return of Jesus. Today, we're inviting you to be a part of our mission through our monthly publication. The Prophecy Watcher isn't just a magazine, it's your trusted news source for the end times, the place tens of thousands of people rely on for their end time news. For your gift of just $50 or more, here's what we'd love to send you. 12 monthly issues of our 4-color magazine, The Prophecy Watcher, in your choice of print or digital. Plus 5 bonus DVDs packed with eye-opening teachings from prophecy experts, including The Mystery of the Rapture, The Great Apostasy and the Revealing of the Antichrist, Holy Fire in Jerusalem, New Shocking Discoveries Surrounding the Shroud of Turin, The Stones Cry Out, The Archaeological Evidence for Jesus, The Mystery of the 10 Kings. Could these be the wealthy and influential oligarchs who control our world today? As an added bonus, we want to send you a one-of-a-kind prophetic treasure, a book that examines every prophecy in the entire Bible. Exploring Bible prophecy from Genesis to Revelation is the work of 2 prophecy legends, Tim LaHaye and Ed Hindson. It's a book you'll find on the shelf of every prophecy expert. This 560-page masterpiece is our bonus gift to you. Every page of the Prophecy Watcher magazine is loaded with answers to the questions you've been asking. The rise of the Antichrist system, the Nephilim of Genesis 6, and the real reason for Noah's flood. The shocking truth about UFOs and government cover-ups. Jewish plans for the Third Temple. The World Economic Forum. The 2030 Global Reset and digital currency. The coming wars of Ezekiel 38 and 39, the Dead Sea Scrolls and their secrets to ancient prophecies. This $120 value can be yours for your gift of $50 with shipping included in the USA. Call us at the number on your screen or visit us online at prophecywatchers.tv. For our international friends, please note that additional shipping fees do apply and all prices listed are in US dollars. The signs are everywhere. The prophetic puzzle is almost complete. And yet, so many are still asleep. That's why the Prophecy Watchers exists, to shine a light in the darkness and help believers understand the lateness of the hour. We believe Jesus is coming soon, and your support helps us take this urgent message to the ends of the earth.
Well, welcome back, and we are talking to Terry James about his new book. And, you know, Terry, we're just kind of getting into some of the things, but one of the questions I have is, you know, what would you say is a number, like the number one signal or sign that is, in your mind, that is pointing towards the arrival of this tribulation period?
I think the number one signal is the same as I think you probably most people who study eschatology from the pre-trib view. Israel, we see it just, it's on a just a collision course with God. Well, this whole generation, I believe, the way they're treating Israel, you know, Zechariah chapter 12 comes to mind, verses 1 through 3. You know, Israel has become a cup of trembling and a burdensome stone to the whole world, and they are attacked, you know, and yet the whole world, and you have to say most of the world, is blaming Israel. Well, this is pure Satan. Satan is in charge and behind all of this. He hates Israel because it is the people who God chose to bring the Messiah into the world. And God has made promises to Israel. And if Satan could make God break these in some way, which we know has never happened, then Satan would avoid his own collision course with God and his appointment with the lake of fire.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, like you said, Israel's been around 77 years, and God has a reason for bringing Israel back into the land after, you know, almost 2,000 years, 1,878 years, right? You think, wow. Right. And which tells us, again, that God doesn't do anything accidental, certainly not with his people. So the fact that Israel was out of the land for 1,878 years, and then now, boom, they come into land, it really is a, hey, everybody, wake up. we're approaching the end of the age, and now it's been 77 years.
And they're the focal point of the entire world.
Yes.
You notice that? I mean, every day it's Israel. Every day.
Yep.
In the news.
You see the anti-Semitism, you see, again, the UN, you see the stuff going on with Gaza, with Hamas, and yet it's interesting that the slant, talk about the media slant against Israel.
You know, Satan is the prince of the power of the air, right? That's what we're told. Well, the four broadcast traditional ABC, CBS, and NBC, they have been traditionally, have taken the side of basically Hamas, and all of these students from these elite Ivy League schools and their professors who are just totally coming against Israel, and they're coming against God's chosen people, and they're coming against God when you do that. Not that Israel's perfect in its the humanistic sense, it's not, but they are God's chosen people, and when you see the whole world coming against them like this, well, it's time to set up and take notice.
And so here you have the people of Israel doing very immoral, wicked things in many ways. Again, when you look at Israel today, it doesn't love Jesus. You know, it has a certain level of immorality. The LGBTQ movement is very strong there, but they're still God's people. And God is saying, listen, I brought Israel back in order to wake them up spiritually. And we know that's the purpose of the tribulation as well. So to me, things are progressing exactly as God wants. But I want to talk about one other thing, because you have, again, in the book, you have a dozen or so, 14 or so authors. And one of them was our good friend Pete Garcia, Deluding Devices and a Watchman's Warning. Talk about that.
Well, I'm telling you, Pete did say that, that the whole world's attention is drawn in any direction except toward God, who is their only hope for humanity. The only hope is Jesus Christ, but with our devices. Now, I remember being in a restaurant. Of course, I'm blind, as you know, and I was sitting there, but a young lady sitting beside me at the table we were at, and you just hear kind of shuffling of feet. And this girl named Angela, she said, you hear that shuffling of feet, that noise? And I said, yeah, what is that? Because I couldn't see it. Mm-hmm. That is a group of high schoolers just finished with their prom, and every one of them has got their noses in their devices. and that is exactly the world situation. And that's taking attention away from God. I mean, Satan has used these devices masterfully, let me tell you.
Yeah, and there's no doubt that the phone, the looking down at the phone, we've seen pictures of it all around. Or sitting in the airport. I spend a lot of times in airports, and you just look around and everybody, including myself, because I'm reading the news or I'm reading an article, answering email, but we're constantly busy. So there's no doubt that social media and the shaping of a culture could not be, we couldn't have really done this the same way. Satan couldn't have done this the same way, 30 years ago. Especially, I feel so bad, Terry, for the younger generation, those that are 30 and under, because it's almost like, apart from the gospel, there is really no hope for them to come to the knowledge of truth, because there's so much influence. It's
just so addictive. It's unbelievably addictive. We fostered a little girl when she was probably from 11 to 15, 14 years old. And, the worst thing you can do to a child, punishment, is take their device away, their phone. It's just like, worse than pulling teeth, it's like, just the worst thing in the world. And you take that, the adults are the same way. I mean, they cannot do without their devices. And that's what Pete wrote about in this chapter.
Talk about, you wrote a chapter in here, Preparing the Antichrist Geopolitical Platform. And talk about that, because we know we're heading there, right? That when the Antichrist comes on the scene, it's already there. The system, the beast system, everything, the political, the foundation, the structures are there. Talk about that, the Antichrist geopolitical platform.
Well, it's all built around Ephesians 6:12 and the globalist cabal. We struggle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and power in high places. And that's exactly what we've seen develop. Satan again Satan knows that God cannot lie. He knows the rapture is coming. Let me tell you, he looks at the Apostle Paul's words about the rapture. He believes it. He believes in a pre-trib rapture. He knows it's coming. And he's preparing. He's stage setting. And he's getting his minions in order, both human and demonic. And that's what Ephesians 6:12 is all about, the globalist cabal, I call it. That's what the so-called deep state is all about. That's at the center of the heart of it all. And like you said, it's not only in the United States or in some of these other European countries. It's in the heart of Israel, this deep state. And so I think that's what that's all about. And you see stage setting, global geopolitics is right at the center of everything, right along with global religion developing and all of these other things. It's something that we can see stage setting, and it is definitely an indicator in our book, Tracking Toward Tribulation. I mean, this is one of the indicators we can look at as we track the time of the approaching tribulation.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you look around the world, whether, again, in Europe or even America, as Christians, we tend to think, oh, well, Trump is trying to get rid of the deep state, and there's been this and that. But man, even if we have some level of success here, you go to Israel, they have the same thing, that the leftist judges and others that are trying to destroy the principles of freedom and going through a dictatorship. You go into Europe, it's the same thing there. There's no doubt these globalist leaders who've been around entrenched for a long time in the system. That's why they're called the deep state, because they're not elected every year.
Yeah, the swamp is not just in D.C., it's global. And getting rid of these people, and that's because money, is all powerful. The love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, the Bible says. And these people do not want to, I'm talking about the human minions, the demonic minions just want to do Satan's and their own will and destroy humanity, period. But the human elements, human minions within the Ephesians 6:12 cabal, they like that money and power. Money buys power and vice versa. Henry Kissinger, famously said, power is the ultimate aphrodisiac, and that's what the deep state's all about.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you look around and you see the corruption that is taking place all throughout the world in these places, in the swamp, the worldwide swamp. Well, we're going to take a little break here where you can see how to get Terry's brand new book, again, with all these different authors speaking in their own specialties. It's pretty fascinating. Take a listen.
It's always a joy to welcome Terry James into our studio. 48 books later, it's safe to say that he's the most prolific prophecy writer of our generation. Terry's unique approach to creating a prophecy book makes for some of the most popular books we've ever offered. Rather than focusing on the opinion of one expert, he incorporates the opinions of multiple authors into each chapter. If you've studied the prophecies of the Bible, you'll recognize the names of the contributors: Tom Hughes, Randall Price, Bill Salus, and many others, plus Mondo Gonzales, who wrote the inspiring final chapter, letting us know how close we are to the return of Jesus. Ironically, this program was recorded just a few weeks before Israel's attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. As the missiles and drones fly back and forth, we're all wondering where things go from here. But I think the title of Terry's new book, Tracking Towards Tribulation, is appropriate for the times we live in. If you're not familiar with prophecy, Terry's book will give you the biblical education of a lifetime. If you're biblically aware of the lateness of the hour, you'd understand how close we are to the rapture of the church and the return of Jesus. Tracking Towards Tribulation is your roadmap for the future. Terry's book is available for your gift of $30 or more, with shipping included anywhere in the USA. We're also going to include 3 bonus DVDs. Ezekiel 38, When God Defends Israel, is a 3-hour study on the Gog and Magog war, a battle that may be right around the corner. The DVD features Mondo Gonzales and Middle East expert Bill Salus, who lay out all the details of this surprise invasion by Russia, Turkey, Iran, and neighboring nations. We've also selected 2 additional books by Terry and friends: Nearing Midnight, As It Was in the Days of Lot, and Trajectory, Tracking the Approaching Tribulation Storm. The Tracking Towards Tribulation package includes the new book, these 2 additional Terry James books, plus the 3 bonus DVDs on Ezekiel 38, a $25 bonus value. The entire package is available for your gift of $70 or more. Call the number you see on your screen 24/7 or visit our online bookstore at prophecywatchers.tv. For our international friends, please note that additional shipping fees do apply, and all prices listed are in US dollars. The events the prophets wrote about 2,500 years ago are coming to pass. As Israel fights another battle, we turn to the Bible to see the future. We are nearing the midnight hour. If you don't have a personal relationship with Jesus, now would be a good time to welcome him into your life and secure your eternal future. The author of Romans 10:9 and 10 says it best. If you confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus and believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead, you will be saved. May God bless you on your journey, and pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Well, welcome back, and I do hope that you get the book. And Terry, as we kind of close here, you have one of the authors is Randall Price, and he talks about apocalyptic anxiety. Kind of share with us just a little snippet of what that really is referring to.
Well, Randall, Dr. Price, he is probably the foremost, one of the foremost scholars of our time in pre-trib eschatology and so forth, as well as a worldwide archaeologist and so forth. And so he's saying that he's seeing this worry worldwide. Wherever he goes, he travels widely. He sees this. People know something is coming, and Randall writes about this in his chapter, and he does so expertly as few people could, because he is in touch with so many different people and so many different levels, and from the just ordinary people to top scientists and so forth, and geologists and all these other things. So he sees a worldwide angst, I guess, anxiety that knows that there's a apocalypse coming, which would mean there's a revelation coming, and that revelation is of Jesus Christ, of course. Most of them won't recognize it because they've got their noses in their devices in other places, but they know that something's coming. There's got to be judgment. It's put into the human heart. God has put it in the human heart. There's got to be judgment for wickedness and sin. And that's in the human heart. And that's what Randall wrote about, I think, to a large extent.
Yeah, absolutely. Terry, thank you for your time today. It's been good. And as we think about what is happening here in the world, what's the goal? The goal is to make sure that everybody's ready. I think about even in my own life and my own family, some family and friends don't know Jesus yet. And what's the goal? You want them to be ready for this intervention by Jesus. It's such a perfect word, because when the Lord appears on the scene to take his church away, judgment lands. Luke 21 says quite clearly that day of judgment is going to arrive like a trap on a world that is unsuspecting or unaware, that are just living life business as usual. And we don't want anybody to have that.
Yeah, like a snare.
Like a snare. So thanks for watching today, this week, and we just cannot say enough that we appreciate your prayers and support for all we do here. Again, the goal is to reach as many people as possible with the gospel of Jesus Christ, and praying that they are all ready for the Lord's return. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.
Prophecy Watchers is a viewer-supported ministry made possible through the faithful support of friends like you. You can give easily by visiting prophecywatchers.com. Your generosity helps us keep watch, spread truth, and reach even more people with the message of Bible prophecy.